So let's go ahead and get things started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled How to Become an Influencer Sales Rockstar. So I know that there's a whole bunch of rock stars out there in the audience, and you're going to be more of a rock star when we finish this. And I'm not going to do a Queen song or anything, but you guys are going to be rock stars.
Thank you.
This thing. Absolutely, absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar, How to Become an Influencer Sales Rockstar. A couple of reminders: make sure you mute your audio on your computer, on your mobile, stuff like that, so we don't interrupt the presenter today. We'd like you to stay on mute unless you have a question, and we do encourage some interactive questions and things like that if you want to ask them in the chat box. If it's more private, you can just message it to me privately, and I'll be sure to bring it up without mentioning names. Feel free to, every time you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and put it in the chat box, and we'll kind of slide it in and ask Holly to address those as we go along, okay? So the agenda for today is we're going to go through actually the survey results that you guys filled out when you registered for the program. We'll go through the presentation, and then of course we'll have live Q&A with the attendees. So the questions. So question number one was, my role is 38% responded sales, 6% marketing, 6% revenue management, no one from operations. 19% were either furloughed or laid off. 19% also were looking for new opportunities. And 12% were either in the category of there were sales and marketing, or there was actually someone in there that was an owner operator. So really, really interesting thing. So we got a really heavy concentration of salespeople here, hence the event Sales Influencer Rockstar. Question number two, I have been or was employed in hospitality for, so 1 to 2 years, 6%, no one was 1 to 5 years, 13% 6 to 10 years, and 81% were 10 plus years. So we have a lot of, we're not going to call them seniors, but we have a lot of senior salespeople that are in the room. Question number three, my LinkedIn SSI score. So some people might think that is supplemental security income, commonly known as, Social Security and things like that. But a lot of people honestly said they didn't know what an SSI score was because 56% said they didn't. Nobody said what was below 50%. 19% said 50 to 70% said they knew what that was, and 25% said 70+%. Question number four. I'm excited to learn some new technology to grow my sales skills. So we didn't even have to fill out the rest of the slides because it was 100% said, yes, I can't wait. Question number five, I've seen success with social media. Posts on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or other social platforms. Full 13%, they said they strongly agreed. 56% said they agreed. 19% disagreed. 0% strongly disagreed, and 12% said they hadn't tried it. So you're in for a treat today. And finally, question number six, it says, I already use some technology to help me grow my sales. Here are some examples. And there were a lot of people who responded to this, but mostly it was either some sort of a CRM management platform, LinkedIn, Twitter. And then one gentleman said, as a new CEO, I'm just starting my sales journey. I have taken and taught sales classes in the past, but have never been in a role that required me to take an active sales role. Very interesting, very interesting. So our speaker for today is Holly Zoba. And Holly's the owner of sales and marketing training company called Scout Simply. She spent her first 15 years in the hotel industry in the DC market. And then she spent the next 10 years selling marketing and training to hotels. 2 years ago, she went back to school and became a full stack web developer. That's a mouthful. An odd mixture perhaps, but the perfect start to her story. She launched a sales and training program 2 years ago that combines modern sales strategies and technology for hoteliers. Holly is a current member and the immediate past chair of the HSMAI Marketing Advisory Board. And during her time there, she was a founding co-author of the Certified Hospitality Digital Marketer Syllabus, also known as CHDM, and a recipient of the 25 Most Extraordinary Minds in Sales and Marketing. My name is Mitch Woolley, and I'll be your moderator today, and I want you to welcome Holly Zoba. Holly, take it away.
Amanda, that was nice of you. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad that you love the HSMAI certification. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. I will let you know in advance of my presentation, I really like to push technology to its edge. Apparently, I have no fear of technology letting me down. So I am going to utilize a number of different technologies here. Let's fingers crossed that it works. In fact, I've already goofed up the first thing. So here we go. All right, I have corrected it. Okay, so thanks everybody for signing on to this. I hope that you're gonna get a lot of value out of it. I usually open my webinars with some sort of getting to know you question, but given what questions Mitch so wisely sends out in advance, I love that. I feel like I know you a little bit. So I'm going to change it up a little bit today. So in a minute, I'm going to play you a video. And after the video, I'm going to give you a quiz question. So you're going to have to pay attention to this video, okay? I'm asking you to watch this video because when I first saw it a couple of weeks ago, I thought something has fundamentally changed about our behaviors. And this is a really good example. So let's see if it works. Aha, can everybody see the video? There's no sound. So we see a man sleeping in his lounge chair and a bear pulling up, having a drink out of his pool. Looks like he's gonna go away. Then he thinks, no, let me wander over and see what's going on here. Sniffs around, nice shoes. Now watch what happens. The guy wakes up, sees a bear, and his first instinct is to capture it for social media. I mean, come on. To me, this is saying something has really fundamentally changed. So what I'd like to try and do now is a little Menti question. If you're not familiar with Menti, it's really pretty simple. It's easiest if you use your phone. You just go to menti.com. It's going to ask you for a code, and the code is 1719479. And you're going to answer the question, if a bear woke me up, I would capture it on Instagram. And actually, I need to switch over here to the live Menti. Here we go. Capture it on Insta, capture it to make a video on TikTok, capture it to post on Facebook, or run away screaming. Again, the code is 1719479. I might have to know who these people are. This is anonymous, but I might have to know who's not going to run away screaming. I loves me my social, but I think I would have to run away. I mean, it's just instinct, isn't it? This also tells me your medium, so it's really interesting. The Instagram people versus the TikTok versus the Facebook. All right, I am happy to see that we have a number of people who are going to run away screaming. I probably should have said also run away without screaming, because I don't think you're supposed to scream when you encounter a bear. All right, so clearly, we've made some changes in the way that we internet. Even before COVID, we made a lot of changes, but as early as April, even the New York Times picked up on the fact that the virus has changed the way that we internet. We're spending even more time on social media, if you can imagine. This chart from eMarketing shows that the increase in number of minutes a day on average that people are spending just on social networks. So the red line was the actual and then the projections they made in November of 2019. The black line is the updated forecast in April. So you can see it was already forecasted to be a ridiculous amount of time. But once the lockdown hit, it jumped up. But it's not really coming back down a lot. It's still being projected to continue out. And think about this for one quick second. These numbers are on average per day. We will end up spending 5 years of our life on social media. Consider that. And if you've seen The Social Dilemma, now you're really going to be terrified. So as we know, the virus really changed more than just the way that we internet. For hotels, it meant our phones stopped ringing, except for cancellations. Our emails stopped dinging with inquiries, and suddenly business was really hard to find. And at first, nobody was traveling. But then as travel did start to slowly resume, our normal customers still weren't traveling. And so that required a shift in sales skills. Everybody that I talk to, and I sit on the sales advisory committee, the advisory board for HSMAI also, everybody all of a sudden is looking for hunters. We need more hunters, less farmers. We need salespeople to get on the phones, find that business. You can just nod your head. Has anybody else heard this? Like, is this sort of a common thing, looking for hunters? Here's what I think when I hear the term hunter. I feel like the 80s is calling from their rotary phone and they want their sales term back. Do you not picture Gordon Gekko from Wall Street, like smashing all the little people who got in his way? In truth, I really feel like the last thing that we need are hunters. Do not misunderstand. I totally agree that we need to be much more proactive than we ever have been. But frankly, technology really has changed a lot. And the only ones who've missed this are the people who are still looking for the traditional sales hunters. They think that sales hunters are going to find them business and close it. And I think that that's not the case. You need to be proactive, but it's not the case. And I actually have, even pre-COVID, a good amount of data that supports this theory. Forrester Research did a bunch of studies and had a lot of predictions about B2B sellers, and that's most of us, hotel B2B, business to business. They projected about 33% of sales jobs in the world probably would go away, but they specifically broke them out by sales type. And I'm sure you're not going to be surprised. The biggest job losses are projected with order takers. And we all were order takers, let's be honest, not that long ago. I mean, business was great. We just sort of fell into that role. So that's the biggest, but keep in mind, this is not because of COVID. These losses are because of technology. Bots primarily are taking over for order takers. Literally, you can get everything you need to know without talking to a human on many websites. This I thought was interesting. 25% of the job losses are with hunters. And again, it has to do with technology. What hunters were really good at was scouring the marketplace, making a million prospecting calls, being a little bit pushy and finding that business. Again, technology has really been presented. Hunters can't keep up. And it's also then, I think, post-COVID, just not the approach that people are looking for, but we'll get to that. But how about farmers? So everybody says, these are the gatherers, they're the nurturers. A lot of salespeople think it's the role of the salesperson to build relationships and that salespeople need to be liked. Even though I firmly believe that's true, there's still going to be a projected 15% reduction in farmers. So, have I completely depressed you even more than COVID has depressed you? I hope not, because there really is some good news. There's one area of sales that they're projecting growth. And I suspect post-COVID, this is going to go up even more. And that's the consultative seller. And what is a consultative seller? And why didn't I name my sales class consultative sales? Let's take a look. A consultant is one who gives professional advice or services. People think of consultants as experts and they add business value. So that's why they're not looking for salespeople. They're looking for people to help them. They can do everything else online. They want a human to help them. So now let's look at the definition of an influencer. It's an individual who has the power to affect purchase decisions of others because of their authority, knowledge, and relationship. They help customers make sense of it all. And so not only do you need to be perceived as an expert, which is what the consultant role does, but if you want to change people's behaviors and get them to buy, you're going to really need to figure out a way to convey yourself as this valuable person. And I will tell you, I know several of you are furloughed or looking for new jobs. So much of what I'm going to share with you can be applied to a job search as well as the customer search. Even prior to COVID, I think everybody has heard that now there are more people involved in deciding who gets to travel and who gets to have meetings. On average, instead of in the old days when I was selling hotels, we had one decision maker. Now there are typically at least about 7 involved in even a medium purchase decision. I'm not talking about a huge expenditure, but I think everybody's pretty familiar with that. But what you also need to know is with the abundance of data that's available online and offline, our prospects have far less time to talk to us. They're juggling a lot of different things. And quite frankly, not only can they do their own research online, they prefer it. Talking to a salesperson is kind of the last thing they want to do until they're ready to buy. Between doing research on their own, talking to other members of their buying committee, we now really only get about 17% of their time. A couple of years ago, this was closer to 40%. But the worst part to this chart is 80% of the decision has already been made before they ever talk to a salesperson. So what else are they doing exactly? If they're not talking to us, what precisely are these businesses spending their time doing? It's important for you to think about this as an influencer because you need to be aware of what your buyer's business is before you can present yourself as valuable to them. This is the buying process that a company called Gartner Research discovered that takes place in most businesses and most industries. They start with problem identification. So where are opportunities? Where can we make money? Then they move into exploring solutions. And this is in the past where they might have reached out to us, but today, not so much. They're solving it on their own. Then they're going into building requirements. What do they need to actually solve this problem? Do they need training? Do they need more people? Do they need software? They're building their requirements here. Then finally, they're ready to reach out to us. Throughout this entire process, they're going through the validation and consensus blocks there. Is this the right solution? What do you think? Does everybody agree? And this poor guy off to the right, that's us. He's the salesperson. He's trying to figure out how to grow sales and how to insert himself into his customer's business earlier in the process. I created this particular visual for my training class because it's easier to teach. In reality, this is not what the buying process looks like. This is what it looks like. Chaos and bedlam. They're not going in a linear path. They're getting thrown obstacles. Anybody who looks at any salesperson, any business person who looks at this understands very well the chaos that our customers are enduring right now. You get to a certain point in a company that you're ready to make a buying decision, and then there's turnover. Or somebody's uncle has this better solution that you have to go back and investigate. There are a million obstacles. Bottom line to all of this, our customers are stressed. There's too much really good information out there. And it's not that there's bad information, though there's some of that, but there's an overwhelming amount of good information. There are way too many decision makers involved in the process, let me assure you, as everybody here probably knows. I do a funny little video called the Mythical Man Month. I didn't have time to share with you, but it was written by a software engineer in 1976, and it shows how what takes 2 people 2 hours to complete, when you add 4 or 5 people, it doesn't actually reduce the amount of time, it expands it because there's so much more interaction that has to go. So it's just a challenge. It takes a long time. They're very stressed. And so as a result, do they really need a hunter leaving them pushy voicemails about how they have to take advantage of this deal, or, you know, their end of their life is going to happen? Statistics tell us no, but also common sense sort of tells us no. So I want you all to think for 1 minute about actual influencers that you know, all right? So these are not the Kardashians. I came up with my name of my class before the Kardashians were famous influencers, I swear. They sort of gave influencers a bad name, even though I admire what they do sometimes. But I want you to think about people who you actually allow to impact your own purchasing decisions. So if somehow you came up with an extra 50,000 bucks, who would you ask where to invest it? I'm available. Who do you ask where you're going to go on your next vacation when we're able to travel again? If you have an ill-behaved dog, who do you ask for advice about who should train it? If you're going to buy a car, who do you ask? What Netflix show are you going to watch next? Like, this one is very important. There have been people who have given me bad recommendations, and I'm not asking them. So I want you to think about, and it's not going to be probably one person, it's probably going to be a couple of people, but people that you know in real life who you go to for advice. And then we're going to go back to our mentee question. What behavior traits do those people have in common? All right. So it's the same code. You should be able just to go back to the same thing. And let's see if it works on mine. Technology so far is being my friend. What behavior traits do the people who we allow to influence us have? How would you describe them? Take a minute and think about the people that you know. And you can submit a couple of different things. Thought leaders, absolutely. They're the smarties, we think, on the subject. They're helpful, they're knowledgeable, they're research. They're the people, we have people in our lives who like to do the research. You trust them, they're experts. Number of followers, their experience, they're confident. They share their experience. They listen. What? Would you consider that helpful Honda guy one of those? I don't know who the helpful Honda guy is. Somebody has to tell me that.
It's the Honda commercial, one that does the Honda commercials. He's the helpful Honda guy in the showroom. He's just there to help. He's not there to sell or high pressure. He's just a helpful Honda guy.
Then he absolutely would be an influencer.
Yeah.
All right.
People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. So help them buy.
You're not kidding. That has been true for a long time. All right. So these are fantastic. This is based on my research, what we discovered, and it's very much exactly what you said, with a couple of additions. So a lot of you noted they're helpful, they're on your side, they're credible, you believe them, they're trusted, they're not trying to sell you something, they share their knowledge, but the experts in their discipline, somebody also mentioned, but there's one thing that is important, and that's that they know their audience. So if they don't know their audience, they don't have the credibility. They don't, seem to have the rest of it. So all of these traits are pretty critical. But there's one more key success driver that influencers have in this digital age, and that is they embrace technology. I was so delighted to see, and this is quite frankly new, in your initial survey questions, all of you said you were excited to learn new technology. I'll be honest with you, I've been teaching a variation of this class for a couple of years, And prior to COVID, sometimes I had to spend a good portion of my life trying to convince people that technology was good and not evil, and was here to help us. And now it seems like it's kind of turned the corner. So, all right, I want to go back to that know your audience. According to McKinsey and Company, who's a huge influencer for me because they definitely know their audiences. They did a lot of research, and for the travel industry, they determined that these are the segments that are going to come back first, second, and third. And what I really like about this chart in particular is that it also shares why these people are going to be traveling, because that tells me as a salesperson who within the organization I should be targeting. And not surprising, the first people who need to travel are going to be the ones responsible for increasing revenue. Like that is pretty logical, right? So what I want to do is take this list, and I've broken out just the first one, drivable. The reason they're traveling is sales and client meetings. And 3, the industries or segments that they're coming from. Legal, construction, pharma, manufacturing, and government are some additional ones that we have discovered. I want to talk about those, but I'm also going to use the rest of my time to introduce you to what I consider to be 3 life-changing pieces of technology that are really going to position you as knowledgeable, helpful, and an expert for your prospects, either for your customers or the people you're interviewing with. One of the big things that I hear over and over from hotel salespeople is the segments that used to use us are still at home having Zoom meetings. There are these new segments that I don't know anything about. I don't have any contacts. It's like I've got to really quickly learn this whole new world. And that's life. Like I've done a lot of research on this concept of hunters versus farmers. The most successful salespeople in the consultative world, no matter what, are those that are willing to adapt. And so you've got to learn new markets. That's all there is to it. And I'm going to share with you one of my all-time favorite tools to help you learn about your new segment in lightning speed. It's called SparkToro. And I am actually going to once again risk it all and go to SparkToro, and I'm going to show you around SparkToro live. So SparkToro is a new tool. It's only been around maybe 6 or 7 months, and it was created by Rand Fishkin, who is the creator of Moz and who is also a huge influencer for me. Really smart guy. You come to SparkToro, and by the way, you get 10 free searches a month. You come to SparkToro and you can say, I want to do research my audience frequently talks about, uses these words in their profile, follows social accounts, visits websites, or frequently uses the hashtag. So those are your options. I want to say, I want to learn about people who frequently talk about pharma. I'm going to pretend that pharma is an industry that I need to focus on because I have a feeling there's going to be travel there. And frankly, I don't know anything about pharma. I just don't know anything about that audience. So I could have chosen frequently talked about, which is what I did, or I could have chosen it shows up in their bio. Either one I think would net me some interesting information, because you're only going to have pharma in your bio if you in fact work in pharma. So this is the results, the responses that SparkToro shares with you. First, they give you some audience insights. Top phrases in their bios: healthcare, biotech, pharmaceuticals. So this is what's making up the most of pharma. Here are the hashtags that they're using: biotech, digital health. Here are the social accounts that they're following. And it gives you, my favorite part is, so these are the social websites that people interested in pharma are looking at. These are the most popular, but these are the hidden gems. So if I want to learn about these, I go and visit these actual social sites. Over here, these are the websites that pharma people are visiting. Down here, these are the podcasts that pharma people are listening to. and it even tells you the YouTube channels. So this is just sort of the overview page. You can go deeper into it. If you go into audience insights, it gives you more words and phrases. I will tell you why this matters. And anyone who's watched the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, will also share with you, when you are posting on social media and you want to draw the attention of your target audience, you need to use keywords that matter to them. And so in the hashtags, if I was trying to target pharma, in my hashtags, I would add some of their most popular hashtags. These are, again, the words that matter to them. This is what they're focused on. So again, you're getting a lightning fast education. These are the channels, the social channels that they're visiting. Facebook is always number one. LinkedIn is number two, which is interesting. This is the distribution of activity levels. Average posts per week, they are very active on social. This is an audience that's very active. And this tells you their geographic distribution. This becomes important for you in our next phase, which is where we're going to drill down. So you can click through all of these and it'll give you a much more in-depth glimpse into these segments. You can also, when you're doing your original search, you can add location. So if you only want to know about pharma companies that are within a drivable distance of you, you can sort by that as well. So it really sort of fine tunes what you're searching. So that is tool number one that I have come to love, because you need to know your customers, and to actually learn about them, you've built years. You've spent years getting to know your past customers and their industries and their trends. This technology is a way to make you adaptable and learn something new faster. Tool number two is LinkedIn. And I know everybody's on LinkedIn. At least I hope everybody's on LinkedIn. But I'm going to explore a couple of things on LinkedIn that I think you'll find helpful. Once upon a time, LinkedIn was a great place to find jobs. Today, it's definitely evolved as the #1 most trusted network for doing business. On that SSI question, I was very impressed that many of you did in fact know what it was. I am mostly, in what I'm going to talk to you about now, I'm going to focus on looking for leads. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on helping you get your SSI score up, but I am going to give you one example, because to me, this is kind of table stakes. You've got to have a great LinkedIn profile. And here's an example. This is Corey, who I think lives in LA, which is why I chose him. He clearly is not looking for a job. Corey is branding himself. Identify your most profitable leads, helping hospitality brands grow. The second thing that Corey does really well is in his about, he's not telling you about his 25 years of experience or blah, blah, blah. He is to the point. This is what I can do for you. That is today's modern LinkedIn profile for sellers. If you are looking for a job, it's the same concept. You need to be conveying in this language, this is the value that I can bring to you as an employer. I did want to mention the SSI score because what it stands for those who have never heard of it, it's your social selling index. It's LinkedIn's star report. It basically tells you what share of LinkedIn gravitas you have. All right. So it's looking at things like, and I have a link in the materials I'm going to share with you that tells you how you can find your score out, but it tells you how well connected you are, how well you are sharing insights with the group, and how engaging they're finding you. So it's a really good, it's not the end all be all by any stretch of the imagination. My score fluctuates usually about 4 or 5 points depending on how engaged I am with the platform at any given time. but it's a really good measurement tool if your score is low. If you're doing the right things, you should be seeing your score increase. So to me, that's table stakes on LinkedIn. We need to be a little bit more advanced. So you have some new markets that you've got to find and discover. Within those new markets, you can't sell to a market. You can only sell to individuals. I'm going to share with you how LinkedIn, and I'm sorry to say this is the premium version. It does cost. I think it's worth it. You're going to have to make that decision, but I'm going to show you what capabilities it has for really pinpointing your specific people to prospect on. So let's pretend for a moment you are a hotel in Philadelphia and you need to get to know some manufacturing people. It's a new business for you. It's a new segment. You got to figure out who you can contact in the world of manufacturing. I pre-recorded this because I didn't trust it. This is our home screen, and I'm going to click on the top where it says all filters, and I will choose account filters. This brings up all the different ways you can search for specific accounts. I'm going to start with geography, add location. Since I'm in Philly, I'm going to type in Philadelphia, and if you scroll down, you're going to see several options. I'll click on Greater Philadelphia. To keep an eye on how large your audience is, notice at the top it says 3 million plus results. Outside of just Philly, I'm going to add Delaware, all of Pennsylvania, and maybe even New Jersey because these are all drivable distances. I could also add New York, but you get the idea. Next, I'm going over to industries. I'm searching for manufacturing. As I type in manufacturing, I see I have two choices: electrical, electronic, and railroad. So I'm going to choose those two to start. And I also see building materials, so I want to add that in too. Next, I'm going to move down to company headcount. I want to select companies that are larger than 500 employees. Again, as I'm selecting each one of these things, watch the total number at the top decrease. Oddly enough, that's okay. We simply don't have hundreds of hours to spend contacting these people, so we want to use technology to present us with the best possible options. Next, I want to go to headcount growth. I really want companies who are experiencing growth as they're more likely to need travel. I'm going to say from 2% to 90%. So you can see I'm just dragging the two circles. One to the left starts the baseline. The one to the right shows the high end, and I've gotten to 91%. So I'm going to say add. I am now down to 41 results, and that is manageable for me. Let's go ahead now and hit search, and we are presented with a list of companies that meet all of our criteria. At this point, I'm going to save the search, and now I'm going to drill down to specific people to connect to. Save search, name it, and you can see it says alert frequency. So what this means is as new people are added to this list, LinkedIn will check and notify you every week. Save search. Now I want to drill down into the specific people to connect. I click lead results, and you can see it jumped up to 33,000 plus. Now we want to drill this list down a little bit. This is where we want to think about why people are traveling and who might be making those decisions within an organization. In the past, it was often sales or marketing or maybe operations. Today with COVID, both finance and HR are playing a much larger role. I'm going to drill down for both. I can sort by function, so based on my McKinsey information, I know that client meetings and critical business operations are the reason for travel. So I'm going to include sales, marketing, business development, finance and HR, as well as product management and program support. I've also learned when I'm prospecting, it's best to start at the top. So from a seniority level, I'm going to choose director level and above. The other thing I like to start with is people who are active on LinkedIn. So if you scroll across the top, you can see that 234 have posted on LinkedIn within the last 30 days. So I might start there. Now I've identified 234 actual humans that I can start to prospect, which is fantastic. Of course, I'm going to save this final search, but you might be asking, now what do I do with them? For next steps, let's go to our next section. All right, so now I have 234 people. I need to figure out what to do with them. I personally have a 4-step process where I start, and I will quickly explain it to you. Uh, First thing I do is visit their profile, and I do not do it in incognito. To avoid doing that, you've got to go to your profile settings in LinkedIn and make sure that your profile is visible. So you turn on your name and your headline. And the reason I do that is I want them to know that I'm looking at them. I want them to see my name and my company name. All of you have gotten the notification. People are looking at your profile, and you just can't help but go and look and see who. That's number one, that they've seen your name. Number two, I ask them to connect. And I always, number three, write a note. And I'll tell you why I write a note. There is some research that suggests that it increases your acceptance rate. I sort of believe that's true. I think your profile and how well done that is has the greatest impact on your acceptance rate. The reason that I write a note is I want to show up in their message box. You have a message, and often it also shows up in their email. Holly Zoba sent you a message. So that is 3 times in short order that they have seen my name. First, when I visited their profile. Second, when I asked them to connect. Third, I'm in their mailbox. Potentially 4 if they've also seen me in their email box. Once they accept my connection request, I always immediately write a very simple thank you note, and then I add value. I do not make a sales pitch. Gordon Gekko would make a sales pitch, and Gordon Gekko would be likely blown off. If that person has a need for you, they should know it from your profile, and they will let you know. Do not sell at this point. Instead, add value. And what I mean by that, I will typically, based on my SparkToro research, I might recommend an article or a podcast or a website or a social site that they might be interested in based on their industry and my research. And that's it to begin with. That's all that I do. Now, that's not the end of it, but that's how I start every interaction. Once you start prospecting, this is going to bring you to my all-time favorite tool. Once you start really reaching out to them and sending them a prospecting email or a prospecting phone call, that's when you have to bring in Crystal Knows. What is Crystal Knows? I'm so glad that you asked. I know in your mind. First of all, I have to know, raise your hand. I'm trying to look at the as many people as I can. How many of you know Crystal Knows? Oh no, put in the chat box maybe, sorry. Yes, I know Crystal Knows. No, I've never heard of it before in my life. Don't know it, heard of it in passing. Oh, Amanda, wait till you see it. It's my all-time favorite app. Okay, but I have to tell you something. Mitch Woolley, if you're a salesperson, you're gonna think this is the coolest thing ever. If you're not a salesperson, I've actually had people get angry that this tool exists. So there's a little bit of a difference, but certainly if you work on commission, you're really gonna love this tool. So Mitch has graciously agreed to be a volunteer, so I can show you exactly what Crystal Knows does.
I was voluntold.
Perhaps a little bit. So here is Mitch's beautiful profile, nicely done, although I still would put something there, Mitch. So over here, you'll see this little thing that says view personality. I'm gonna make my screen larger in a second. Crystal Knows is not a part of LinkedIn. It's a separate app, but I have the Chrome extension downloaded. So when I open it, I get this option for view personality. I'm gonna make my screen bigger so you can see. It goes out and it scrapes the web, the intraweb, for detailed information about whoever it is you're searching for. And by the way, you do not have to be connected to them. It will search anybody. and it brings back just a ton of really good information. Mitch tends to have more confidence in gut instinct than formal structure, which can lead to bold but unpredictable decisions. Look out. Then it does a DISC assessment of Mitch, and it compares Mitch to me. So oddly enough, Mitch and I are a little bit similar. This is me, this is Mitch. We both are clearly embracing of risk. Mitch is a little bit more optimistic than me. I'm a little bossier. I'm a little more matter of fact. We're both very middle of the road, autonomous versus collaborative. Interesting. Then it gives you some more insights. It comes naturally for Mitch to speak persuasively, to take big risks, to lead the conversation. It energizes him to experience new things. He's stressed by repetitive tasks, researching data, and then it goes on and it really just gives you a lot of information. What I particularly like is it gives you a conversation coach. So if I have to call Mitch or email Mitch or have a meeting with Mitch, I can pick one of these. So I can make a sales pitch, negotiate, make a good first impression. These are all different options. It tells you, say this. This is the more forward-thinking way to do this. At a high level, this is where it helps the most. Here's an example so you can see what it's like. That's good feedback. Here's what I think. Posture, talk at a quick pace. Don't be slow and methodical or he's going to tune you out. Do try to keep the conversation focused. Don't talk too much about past experience. Don't focus too much on the risks or the downsides. So as you can see, this gives you a ridiculous amount of information so that when you do finally reach out in that prospecting email or in that prospecting phone call, that initial touch point, you know this person. You can write to them differently than you're going to write to. And let me assure you, if you pulled up somebody else's profile, they might be dramatically different. I have done this now, I don't know, 300 times, I'm guessing. It is alarmingly spot on. Mitch, would you say that it's spot on?
It is absolutely knock it out of the park. And I got to tell you, for those of you that are attending today, if you use this and you're opposing somebody who's also competing for that business that doesn't use it, you will win it every single time. And I can tell you that from experience because I'll share that later. Anyway.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm bringing it home. I'm about to wrap it up.
So I'm trying to get in front of this CEO, and in 5 years, he built the company from 0 to 17 million, and I'm trying to get his digital marketing business. And I go on and I use Crystal Knows, and it says he gets frustrated when someone's late to a meeting. He wants to hear high-level stuff. He wants to hear what's the risks, downside, and what are the risks are. So knowing all of this information, when I wrote in the email, I know that he likes to be very, very succinct, and he doesn't like to go into detail. So what he basically said is, he says, what's your pricing? So instead of dancing around and saying, oh, well, that really depends on, I told him it's $300 to $2,500 a month. So he goes, oh, there's a range. Okay. Because if you ask me for an exact price, then we have to have a conversation. Okay. But more importantly, because he doesn't like people who are late to meetings, and he doesn't like long meetings because he can't focus. So when I emailed him, I emailed a link to my Calendly, and I asked him for a 14-minute meeting. Why? Because he doesn't want to spend too much time. And when you say 14, people go, why 14? Because it's cool. Because nobody says 14. And then I was actually 5 minutes early to the call, and he was on the call early. So I've had one call with him, and I'm trying to get the second call now to get his business. But what I did was, when I wrote in the email, I basically played back and used the same language that it says to use with him. And it's ridiculously powerful. And I can guarantee you, I would have never got that first meeting with him if I had just wrote back and said, oh, yeah, we've been in business for 20 years. And he doesn't care about that. He only cares about results, and he wants to see the ROI. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Yeah, it's a tremendous, tremendous tool. I am a big fan. And as I said, I shared this with a couple of people who are on the data operations side, and they were like, what? This information is out there about me. How did they get that? I have been trying to figure out how they've gotten it. They've scraped social media sites. That much I know for sure. But they also use AI to make some predictive predictions about who you are. And repeatedly, it is spot on. Like everybody who I do this to is like, all right, that's me. So we are close to being finished here. I just want to hopefully recap some of the top takeaways. One, this is not news to anybody. It's a new day for both buyers and sellers. Two, I hope I've convinced you to be an influencer and not a Gordon Gekko hunter. You have to get to know your prospects and their business segments, their industries. You cannot be a valuable advisor if you do not familiarize yourself with what is important, what's trending in your people that you're selling to. And please, technology gives you an edge. It's out there it exists to help you. Embrace it. Don't shy away from it. SparkToro helps you learn new industries fast. LinkedIn provides you with the best up-to-date details on prospects. And Crystal Knows gives you the insider information on how best to approach. The rest is really up to you. You're going to have to use the rest of your sales skills. That's the end of my session. This is a part of a class that I teach. And I actually cover 12 apps. So there is far more technology that exists. I have some video making apps that are ridiculous. I have put a resource page for you on my website, which is scoutsimply.com. And if you put /HSMAILA, I've put a how to use SparkToro video and another video on Crystal Knows, a deeper dive into how to use it. And then I have the link to get your SSI score and some other stuff. And I'm also making you an offer if you do want to take any of my classes of $50 off, but you have to there's a coupon code that I give you in there. That's what I had for you. Thank you so much for your time. The people that were on camera, thank you for nodding and being engaged. It makes a big difference when you're a presenter. I very much appreciate it. And Amanda, we need to talk about coffee houses. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Yes.
Thank you. Anybody got a question? You can unmute yourself, please. We've got a couple of minutes left. Unmute yourself if you have questions. And by the way, in the chat box, I shared the special offer for webinar attendees, $50 off any single online class, along with the link to that page that she's created. And by the way, the SparkToro, there's actually the demo on there. I watched it this morning. It's pretty cool.
It's amazing to me what we can find out now.
It is. It
makes a big difference. And my dogs have just started to bark. Yay. That was really good timing.
All right. So if there are no other questions, I want to thank you, Holly, for sharing quite a bit of wisdom with us today. This information is really, really valuable for anyone who's in sales. I mean, this is knock it out of the park. It'll make you successful. I encourage you to visit her website, which is www.influencer-sales.com. And don't forget, if you want that special offer, again, it's ScoutSimply, ScoutSimply.com/HSMAILA. And the last thing that I want to do is I want to make you aware of our next event, which is coming up on Tuesday, October the 20th. It's the Southern California Outlook Forecast for 2021 and beyond. And the cool thing about this is actually going to be one of the only forecasts that's actually given out this year. I know the SoCal Lodging Summit, or the one that Cal Poly usually does every year, they're not doing it this year. So ours will be kind of the only game in town. You got to attend that. It is a paid event, but we've reduced the pricing for the webinar. We've got Brandon Freitner from CBRE Hotels Advisory, who's going to do the presentation along with Wendy Keel. Everybody knows her. She's a former VP of Tourism Insights at LA Tourism and Convention Board. So that'll be a really great program. It's an hour and a half long, which is what our typical, when we have panels, speakers from 11 o'clock to 12:30. And you can go to the website hsmailaLosangeles.org, and it should be on the upcoming events page. And you go ahead and register for that webinar. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm looking here and I don't see any more.
Hey, Mitch, can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Russell, just in case you didn't know who I was.
Yeah, I know who you are.
Oh, thank you, Mitch. I have a question for you, Holly. It has to do with LinkedIn and your followers. Okay, say I have 25,000 followers, but for whatever reason, the algorithm only allows you, it's like it works in levels. Like you hit maybe 100, and depending on how they respond, then it goes to another phase, So you never hit all 26,000 or 25,000 or whatever I have. How can you get past these specific levels? And am I making sense?
You're totally making sense. And first of all, you have to watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
I've actually seen it.
So you know,
Yes.
these algorithms are designed to addict people.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we have seen, I don't have a definitive answer for you. I can only tell you what our research has shown us. And that is what all of these social channels are measuring right now is comments. So whenever you post, you have to encourage people to comment. Ask them what they think, tag people, get more comments. And as you do, it exposes your posts to more and more people. Like that's what makes you more valuable real estate to LinkedIn, because it helps with their addiction issue. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. So basically I need some people on my side to repost things for me.
No,
to get it started at least.
Nope, comment. It used to be share. That used to be 2 years ago. The social channels valued you more if you got shares and likes.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's comments.
Okay.
I mean, the other stuff helps. Don't get me wrong, but you got to encourage people to comment. That's what gets you increased exposure. And so you have to be creative. Frankly, I'll tell you something I did the other day that worked. Mm-hmm. How many of you have seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross?
Years ago, yeah.
It's a fantastic movie. If you're in sales, you have to watch that movie. I made my training partner, Dan, who's a marketer, not a salesperson. I made him watch it. He hated it. He said, I'll never get those 2 hours of my life back. And I said, yeah, but you know what? Now you're going to know all of the references, because there's tons of references. ABC, always be closing. Get them to sign on the line that is dotted. And then I put on LinkedIn, solve an argument between Dan and I. Tons of comments. Now, and you know, it was meant in fun, but people are interested in that. It was business related. It wasn't personal. I got feedback on Glengarry Glen Ross. I was correct. There are references to Glengarry everywhere, but I got a lot of comments. And so now my reach is expanded.
Okay. So it's all about being creative. I need to be a little bit more creative on it then.
Be creative and be relevant.
Okay.
Tag people.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
I think today the true engagement is those comments, because somebody really cares. I mean, it's just too easy to say like. It's too easy to do that. Mm-hmm. And the social networks have figured that out. That it's you could just have people gaming the system, but you can't have people actually write comments. And then people re-comment to the comment. You can't do that with automation at this time. Just give Facebook or somebody else a couple of years, and they'll probably have that down too, and no doubt. But in closing here, I do have a couple of good news to share. On the survey, we asked people also if they have any good news to share. I have 3 comments to share with you. One said, I survived COVID so far, which is good. They didn't have it, but they survived it. Beautiful. The next one is they're working on lead generation for hospitality industry companies that have re-engineered their sales team, but do not want their pipeline to dry up, which is kind of interesting. And the third one is, I'm opening my first coffee shop in about a month, and I can't wait to be a pillar in my community. Yay! We know who that is.
I'm so excited.
Anyway, those are all the comments. You've got your special offer in the notes there. This video, just to let you guys know, so we just finished, actually this morning, we just finished building out the YouTube channel for the chapter. with all the branding and things on it. Now all the videos got to get uploaded. But as soon as that's done, we'll send all of you guys a link to that YouTube channel where you can go listen to all these videos. So if you even attended, one of our events, you'll get the link. Okay.
You guys do a good job.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending. I bid you a farewell.